A vast forest stretched east of the kingdom. Black pines, old as memory. The wind moved through them like a warning. At the heart of it, a stone cottage, smokes rising from the chimney, smaller than a man's reach, hidden by trees that bent the wrong way on purpose. Inside, a small fire, a blanket on the floor where something had once slept, a wolf carved from oak, uneven ears, the work of someone learning. Alone at the workbench, a woman, 26, dark hair tied back, hands stained with elderberry juice, a clay pestle in her grip. She froze. The shelves trembled. Outside, the earth itself was shaking. She crossed to the window, slowly, pressed her face to the gap in the shutters, beyond the tree line. 40 soldiers, black armor, silver edging, and one man standing in front of them, bareheaded. Waiting, her wrist began to burn. The silver ring on her skin had started to glow 3 years ago. The night the blood moon hung low and red over Duscaro Keep, a woman knelt on cold stone, her wrists bound, her dress torn at the shoulder, her dark hair loose around her face. She was 23 years old. Her name was Adeline Thornberry. And in less than 1 hour, the entire pack world would believe she was dead. The hall was full. 5 alphas at the high table, their councils behind them, witnesses in the galleries above. Hundreds of eyes, all of them on her. She did not look at the eyes. She looked at one man only. Her husband, Bennett Thornberry, sat in the accused seat across the chamber, tall, pale, his golden hair catching the torchlight. His hands folded in his lap like a schoolboy waiting for a test result. He would not look at her. The beta stepped forward. Orrin Vance, 28 years old then, sharp cheekbones, cold eyes the color of river ice, a voice like silks pulled tight over a blade. He held up the forged documents, one by one, each bearing her seal, each describing crimes she had never committed, order raids, imprisoned pack members, young wolves sent to die lies. Every word, but the seals looked real. The witnesses he had paid looked convincing, and Bennett. Her Bennett said nothing. The council deliberated for 11 minutes. 11 minutes to undo a life. She heard the verdict from very far away, like listening to thunder through deep water. Stripped of title, stripped of rank, branded with the silver mark of exile. Given 3 hours to leave Duscaro territory. The branding iron came out of the fire white hot, glowing. Almost pretty. 2 guards held her wrist steady. She did not scream. She looked at her husband one last time, waiting, hoping, praying he would stand up. Say something, anything. He looked at the floor. The iron touched her skin. The smell of burning flesh filled the hall. Someone in the gallery gasped. A child started crying. Adeline did not move. When it was over, they cut her bonds. She stood, her wrist red and raw and ringed in silver. She walked out of the hall on her own 2 feet, spine straight, eyes dry. She walked out of the gates of Duscaro, Keep into the first snowfall of October. No one walked with her. She had no father. He had died when she was 18. She had no mother. Her mother had died when she was 5. She had no siblings. She had nothing. She walked east into the wind, toward a forest that had a name people whispered in the villages. The Brierwood, a forest that swallowed travelers. A forest where wolves who entered never came out. Adeline Thornberry walked into it without looking back. And the world said her name like a door being shut. 3 years passed, the world forgot. But the forest remembered. The morning was gray and cold and quiet. A woman knelt by a frozen stream, 26 years old now, lean, strong in the way of women who have learned to lift their own firewood. Her dark hair tied back with a strip of deer leather. Her hands stained with elderberry juice and the dried residue of 100 different healing roots. She was filling a clay water jug. She paused, pressed her palm flat against the icy earth. She felt something, a tremor, faint, almost nothing. A human would have missed it. But Adeline was not entirely human anymore, not in the simple sense. She rose slowly, her gray eyes scanning the tree line, the wolf inside her, the one she had locked away 3 years ago in a place so deep and so cold, she had almost convinced herself it was gone. It lifted its head. It whined. Adeline pushed it back down. The way you push down a memory. The way you push down a name. She picked up her jug and walked back to the cottage. The cottage was small and made of gray stone, built into the side of a low hill. Smoke rising from a chimney made of river rock. A few rabbit pelts stretched on frames outside the door. It was the most beautiful thing Adeline had ever owned, because she had built it. With her own hands. The first winter had nearly killed her. The second winter she had survived, because the forest had decided to let her. The third winter she had not just survived, she had thrived. She had learned the language of plants, the language of weather, the language of silence. She had become someone her younger self would not have recognized, and on her right wrist, the silver brand still glowed faintly in the cold. She did not look at it anymore. She had stopped looking at it some time in the second year. Inside the cottage, a small fire crackled in the hearth. By the fire, on a folded wool blanket, lay an empty space. Adeline looked at the empty space and felt the familiar ache. Old friend. That had been his name. The old gray wolf she had found her first spring, caught in a hunter's snare, half-starved, one ear torn. His eyes the color of wet stones. She had cut him free, expecting him to die, expecting him to bite her. He had done neither. He had limped after her all the way back to the cottage, lay down by her fire. And for 3 years, he had been the only living thing in her world that knew her by sight. He had died last month, old age, peaceful, in his sleep. She had buried him under the oldest oak in the clearing. She had not cried. She had stopped crying about a year ago. She did not know why. The tears had simply dried up, as if her body had decided she had used her share. She still left the blanket by the fire. She did not know why she did that either. She was grinding valerian root at her workbench when she heard the second tremor. This one she did not need to kneel for. This one shook the clay jars on the shelves. She froze. Pestle halfway to the mortar, her wolf surged up so suddenly she had to grab the edge of the bench to keep her footing. Not afraid. Not exactly, but awake. For the first time in 3 years, awake in a way that made every hair on her arms rise. Whatever was coming. It was not passing through. It was coming for her. She set down the pestle, walked to the window, pressed her face to the gap in the wooden shutters, and her blood went cold. 40 soldiers, black armor, silver detailing, cloaks the color of midnight, standing in a perfect crescent formation at the edge of her clearing. 40 wolves of the Night Rain Army, the most feared military force in the known territories, and in front of them. On foot, no helmet, no guard between him and her door, a man tall in the way mountains are tall, black hair pushed back from a face all hard angles and old scars, a jaw set against difficulty so many times it had locked there permanently, armor of black steel, a long dark cloak, a crest on his chest plate, a crown, a wolf. Adeline knew the crest. Every wolf in every pack territory between the eastern mountains and the western sea knew that crest. Caspian Wolfheart, the Alpha King, the man who had united the fractured pack territories under one crown through 10 years of war and diplomacy and a will that bordered on something terrifying. He was 32 years old. He was standing in her clearing. Adeline looked at the silver brand on her wrist. She looked back at the king. Of course, she thought, with the dry, exhausted humor of someone who had suffered enough that absurdity no longer surprised her. Of course it is him. She unbolted the door. She stepped outside to face the Alpha King of the known world, dirt on her hands, rabbit blood on her apron, hair coming loose from its leather tie. She had decided 3 years ago she would never again show her fear to a man with a title. She did not intend to start now. He looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were amber. Gold at the center, darkening to deep bronze at the outer ring. The kind of eyes that did not blink. The kind of eyes that did not need to. They moved from her face to her branded wrist and stopped there. Adeline waited for what always came next. The flicker of disgust. The small step back. The careful adjustment of posture that said, "Oh, you are one of those." It did not come. What came instead was something she did not have a name for. His jaw tightened, just barely. A small movement. He looked back up at her face, and his voice when it came was lower than she had expected. Lower and softer. "I am sorry," he said, "that I came so late." Adeline did not move. In 3 years of solitude, in 3 years of frozen streams and breath fogging in the cold dark, not one person had said those words to her. Not the council that had branded her. Not the husband who had let it happen. Not the villages she had passed through in her first year, before she stopped going to villages. Not one. Her wolf went very, very still. She found her voice. It came out steadier than she expected. "You had better come inside," she said. "I only have 2 chairs." A small movement at his mouth, not quite a smile. "But something, that will be enough," he said. He had to duck to get through her door. He did it without comment. Without the self-consciousness lesser men brought to physical awkwardness. Inside, the cottage seemed to shrink around him. He stood for a moment, his amber eyes moving over everything. The braided herbs in the rafters. The clay jars labeled in her careful script, the wolf hide on her sleeping pallet. The iron pot on the hearth, the empty blanket by the fire. He looked at the blanket. Then at her, he did not ask. But something in his face said he had understood. His gaze stopped on the windowsill. On a small carving sitting there. A wolf, roughly hewn from oak, about the size of a fist. The proportions slightly off. The ears uneven. The work of someone learning. Alone, he looked at her. He did not say, "You made that." He just looked. She felt herself looked at, a way she had not been looked at in 3 years. Not as a body. Not as a problem to be managed, just looked at. Seen she busied herself with the kettle. "Pine needle tea," she said. "It is all I have. It will do." She poured 2 cups, set them on the small table, sat down in one of the chairs, folded her hands in her lap, looked at him. He sat. His knees nearly touched the edge of the table. He wrapped both hands around the small cup with a kind of deliberate care, as if he had decided to treat the small thing with respect. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fire crackled. Adeline waited. She had learned how to wait. 3 years ago, he began, his voice low. "Careful. The council tried and exiled you. On the testimony of Orrin Vance. I know what happened to me. Then you deserve to know what has happened since." A pause. "Bennett Thornberry is dead." Adeline did not move. She had imagined this conversation, many times, in approximately 1,000 variations, over 1,000 long, dark nights. She had imagined how she would feel. She felt nothing, or rather, she felt something. But it was not what she had imagined. It was not relief. It was not satisfaction. It was a deep, aching tiredness, the kind that lived in the part of a person that had been holding itself together through sheer, determined effort, and was simply exhausted from the effort of it. "When?" she asked. 14 months ago. A border dispute with a rogue pack. The kind of dispute that would not have been necessary. If he had not sold his eastern border rights to fund his own lifestyle, a pause, before he died. He made a confession, a written one, witnessed and sealed by 3 independent record keepers. He confirmed that the documents bearing your seal were forgeries. He confirmed that you knew nothing of the border raids. He confirmed that your exile was a deliberate political removal. His voice was level. He was watching her face, orchestrated by his beta, who intended from the beginning to take the alpha position himself. The silence in the cottage was absolute. Adeline heard it all. Every word. She also heard the thing he was not saying. The thing that mattered most. She asked it. And Orrin Vance, what has he done with the alpha position he worked so hard to steal? Caspian's jaw tightened again. He has spent the past year building alliances with 4 rogue packs along my northern border. 3 months ago, he made a formal challenge for the king's seat, claiming that my claim to the unified throne is illegitimate. A pause. He has the support of 2 of the 5 original Alpha Council members, A longer pause. He also has something else. Adeline waited. He has the location, Caspian said, of the hallowed stone. Her breath stopped. The hallowed stone. It was not a legend. Though most people treated it as one, it was a piece of the original moon altar. The sacred site where, according to the oldest pack histories, the first Alpha King had been chosen by the moon herself. For centuries, the stone had been lost. But the old records were clear on one point. Whoever presented themselves at the stone on the next full moon and was accepted by it could make an unbreakable claim to the Alpha King's seat, not a challenge, not a negotiation. A sacred confirmation, one that no army and no council could legally override. He is going to use it, Adeline said slowly, to legitimize his claim. Yes, in 23 days, at the next full moon. The window after that is another 100 years. He held her gaze. I need to reach the stone first, and the stone is in the Brierwood. The stone is in the Brierwood. A forest that has actively repelled every scouting party I have sent into it for 6 months. The amber eyes held her. But you have lived in it for 3 years. She did not answer right away. She looked at the fire, at the empty blanket beside it, at the small oak wolf on the windowsill. She thought of all the children in all the villages from here to the coast. She thought of the world they would grow up in if Orrin Vance sat on the Alpha King's seat. She knew Orrin. She had lived in his presence for a year before her exile. She had watched him work a room, watched him bend others to his will without ever raising his voice. A world ruled by Orrin would not be a world worth handing to any child, but she did not say yes. Not yet, what do I get, she asked, for guiding you? Formal reversal of your exile, issued by royal declaration, the brand removed, your title restored, your name cleared before every pack in the territories, and if we fail, a pause. Longer than the others, then we fail together, and I die before I let him take the throne, and you go back to your cottage, and the world becomes a worse place, honest, plain, without performance. She liked that. She did not want to like it, but she did. She rose, walked to the door, opened it, looked out at the gray afternoon, at the 40 soldiers waiting in disciplined silence at the tree line. I need to think, she said. Until morning, he agreed. He stood, picked up his cup, drained it in one swallow. At the door he paused. Adeline, she turned, whatever you decide, I will respect. Then he was gone. She did not sleep that night. She sat by the fire, wrapped in a wool blanket, watching the flames. Her wool paced inside her chest, restless. Awake, she kept thinking about his face, the expression on his face, when he had said, I am sorry I came so late. A king did not apologize, but he had. She thought about her mother. Her mother had died when Adeline was 5. A wasting sickness, they had told her, the body simply giving out. She had only one memory of her mother, just one. Sitting in a garden full of late summer roses, her mother humming, tying daisies into a chain, crowning Adeline like a small queen. She had carried that memory through every winter in the forest. She wondered sometimes what her mother would say. If she could see what had become of her daughter, she wondered if her mother would be proud. She had to believe she would be. It was the only thing she had left to believe. Toward midnight, she heard the first scream, then the second, then a sound she knew very well. The wet sound of bone breaking. She was on her feet before she had thought about it. She did not have time to grab a weapon. The door burst inward, splinters flying, cold air rushing in. 2 men, wolves in human form, black cloaks, faces wrapped in cloth. Knives. Adeline's wolf surged up. She did not push it back this time. She turned, ran for the back of the cottage, where her hunting bow hung, where her skinning knives waited. The first man caught her by the hair. He yanked her backward. Off her feet, she hit the floor hard. His knife came down. She rolled. The blade buried itself in the wood floor beside her head. She kicked up, hard, caught him in the throat. He gagged, stumbled. The second man was on her. She fought. With everything she had learned in 3 years of being alone in a forest with predators. She fought dirty, she fought to live, but there were two of them, and one of her hand was reaching for the skinning knife on the lower shelf. Her fingers were closing on the bone handle. She was bringing it up when the door behind her exploded. A shape filled it, black against the night, enormous, eyes burning gold, Caspian, not in human form, half-shifted, the way the most powerful alphas could do when they did not have time for full transformation. He moved like nothing she had ever seen. The first man did not even have time to turn around. There was a sound, sharp, final. Then the second man was running, out the back, through the small window, glass shattering. Caspian did not chase him. He stood in the middle of her ruined cottage, breathing hard, half wolf, half man. Slowly resolving back into human form, he looked at her. She was on the floor, her hair in her face, the skinning knife still in her hand, her chest heaving. "Are you hurt?" he said. Not a question, a demand. She shook her head. She could not yet trust her voice. He crossed the small room in 3 strides, knelt beside her. Did not touch her, but his hand hovered, as if he had to physically stop himself from reaching out. "Adeline, I am all right," she said. He let out a breath she had not realized he was holding. He walked to the man on the floor, searched the body, came up with something small, dark, folded, a piece of cloth. With a symbol stitched on it, he held it up so she could see. A black wolf head, pierced through the eye with a knife. Adeline's stomach dropped. The mark of Orrin Vance. He knew she was alive. He had been hunting her too. And he had almost won. Caspian did not sleep that night. He sat in the chair across from her sleeping pallet, sword across his knees, watching the door, watching the broken window, watching her. She did not sleep either, but she lay still, wrapped in her blanket. Her face turned toward the wall. She listened to him breathe. It had been a very long time since she had slept in a room with another person breathing. She had forgotten how it felt. She had forgotten how much she had missed it. In the gray hour before dawn, she rose. She walked past him without speaking. Out the door, across the clearing, through the trees. He did not follow, but she felt him watching. She walked until she came to the oldest oak, the one where old friend was buried under a flat stone marked with one carved word, friend. She knelt in the cold leaves. She spoke, the way she always spoke to him. "Old friend," she said quietly, "I do not know what to do." The wind moved in the high branches. "There is a girl in a village near the forest edge. Her name is Posy. She is 8. She has a missing front tooth and a laugh like water over stones. A pause, if I do not go. The man who hurt me will become king, and girls like her will grow up in a world where men like him decide everything." Another pause. "And there is a king at my door who said he was sorry." She pressed her hand flat against the cold earth. "I am tired, old friend. I am so tired of being alone with all the things I know." The wind moved again. She closed her eyes, and in the dark behind her eyelids, she saw her mother, in a garden full of late summer roses, crowning her with a chain of daisies. She heard her mother humming. She heard the words she had no memory of hearing. "You are braver than you know, my little wolf. You will be brave again." Adeline opened her eyes. She got to her feet. She walked back to the cottage. Caspian's was standing in the doorway, waiting. She stopped 3 feet from him. "I will guide you," she said. His shoulders eased, just slightly. "Thank you. Not for your kingdom." He nodded. Slowly, "For the girl, yes. And for your mother." She looked up at him, surprised. His amber eyes were soft in the gray morning light. "I see her in your face," he said quietly. "I do not know how. I just do." Adeline did not have an answer for that. She walked past him into the cottage. She began to pack. By midday, the soldiers were ready. Caspian gathered his command in the clearing. He introduced them to Adeline one by one, with the kind of formality that told her everything about how seriously he took the people he led. Hadrian Brier, 40 years old, the king's first general, a broad-shouldered man with a silver scar running through one eyebrow. He had served Caspian's father before him. He looked at Adeline with the appraising eyes of a man who had seen everything and was reserving judgment. Imogen Hollow. 26. The same age as Adeline. The king's warden of the north. Shorter than the men. Quieter. Gray eyes the color of river stones. She looked at Adeline for a moment too long. Then she did something none of the men did. She inclined her head, the smallest possible bow, a gesture of respect from one woman who had survived something to another woman who had survived something else. Adeline felt her throat tighten. Felix Rourke. 23. The king's young scout, lean and quick-eyed. He smiled at her with no caution at all, as if he had not yet learned that smiling at strangers could cost you. My wife is 6 months pregnant, he told her, quite without prompting. Her name is Wynne. I am going to be a father in the spring. Adeline did not know what to say. She said, "Congratulations." He beamed Nam. 22. A tracker. Dark hair cropped short, the watchful stillness of someone who saw everything and said almost nothing. She did not smile. She did not bow. She simply looked at Adeline, nodded once, moved on. Brother Alaric, 50 years old, the healer, robes the color of bark. A wooden symbol on a leather cord around his neck. He had the gentle eyes of a man who had spent his life helping people die well. He took Adeline's hand, both of hers. In both of his. "Daughter," he said, "I am glad to know you." She had not been called daughter in many years. She had to look away. Imogen approached her last. After Caspian had finished his introductions, she held out a folded bundle. "For you," she said. Adeline unfolded it, a wool cloak, deep forest green, fur-lined at the collar, soft, well-made. "I made it for myself," Imogen said, "but you have a longer walk than I do, and you have been cold longer." Adeline could not speak in 3 years. Not one woman had given her anything. She tried to say thank you. Her voice failed. Imogen seemed to understand. She did not push. She just nodded, once, and walked away. Adeline pulled the cloak around her shoulders. It was the warmest thing she had ever owned, for the first time in over a year. She came very close to weeping. They left the clearing in the gold hour before noon. Adeline walked at the front beside Caspian, Neamov just behind. Then Imogen, then Felix, then Brother Alaric. The remaining soldiers under Hadrian fanned out behind them, a wall of black and silver moving through the trees. The Brierwood received them. Adeline felt it the moment they crossed the first ridge. The shift in the air, the way the light changed beneath the high canopy, the ancient quiet that settled over them like a held breath. She felt the forest notice. She felt it assess. She thought, very clearly, in her head, "They are with me, please." The trees did not answer in any way she could point to. But the path ahead stayed clear. Behind her, she heard Felix breathe out slowly. "It is warmer in here," he said, half to himself. "Yes," Adeline said, "that is a good sign." The first hour was quiet. Not the silence of an empty place. The silence of a place that was listening. Adeline walked at the front, her boots making almost no sound on the thick moss, her green cloak moving softly behind her. The forest opened ahead of her one step at a time, like a long-held breath being released slowly. Behind her, the soldiers walked in disciplined silence. Behind them, trees closed. She did not look back, but she felt it. The forest sealing the way they had come, not trapping them, just holding them, like a hand closing around something precious. Caspian walked just behind her left shoulder, close enough that she could hear his breath, far enough that he was not crowding her. She found she did not mind him there. She found, in fact, that she had begun to listen for his footsteps the way you listen for a familiar voice in a crowded room. She did not examine this thought. She kept walking. By mid-afternoon, she paused at a small clearing where 3 streams met. She knelt, touched the water, tasted it on her fingertip. "We rest here," she said. The soldiers fell out of formation, quietly, efficiently. Hadrian setting watch positions without being asked. Adeline pulled bread and dried meat from her pack, set it on a flat stone. Imogen sat down beside her. Not too close, just close enough. Felix sat across from them, Brother Alaric beside him. Niam stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the trees. Caspian remained standing. He looked at the water, then at the trees, then at Adeline. "How do you do it?" he asked. "Do what? Talk to it." "The forest?" Adeline considered. She had never had to explain it to anyone. "I do not talk to it," she said slowly. "Not exactly." "What then?" she thought. "You know how. When you walk into a room with a small child, you change, you move slower, you speak softer, you make yourself less. Because if you do not, the child will be afraid." He nodded. "It is like that, but the other way around. The forest is the larger thing. I am the small thing. I make myself open. I make myself honest. I let it see me, and if you came in with a lie in your heart, then I would walk in circles for 2 days, and then I would walk out the way I came in." Felix laughed. Caspian did not. Brother Alaric set down his cup. "It is the same with God," he said quietly. Everyone looked at him. The old priest smiled. "You come open, you come honest, you let yourself be seen. And the holy meets you halfway." Imogen looked at her hands. Adeline looked at the water. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Caspian said, "We will move in 20 minutes." He walked away to confer with Hadrian. But before he went, he met Adeline's eyes for 1 second, longer than was strictly necessary. And she felt it. That quiet attention. That weight. She turned back to her bread. She did not allow her face to do anything. But her hand, the hand holding the bread, was shaking. Just a little. She set it down. She told herself it was the cold. It was not the cold. By the morning of the second day, the trees had grown so tall and so close together that the sunlight came down in narrow gold ropes. The moss underfoot was the depth of a pillow. The air smelled of resin and earth and something else. Something old. They walked for 3 hours without speaking. Then they came to the ravine. It appeared without warning. One moment there were trees. The next moment there was a vertical drop of 60 feet. The ravine floor invisible in shadow far below. Spanning the gap was the ice bridge, a natural arch, pale blue, glittering faintly, 40 feet long, 3 feet wide at its narrowest point. Felix walked to the edge, looked down, stepped back quickly. "That is." "A long way down, yes," said Adeline. Hadrian crouched at the edge, tested the ice with his hand, frowned. "This is not normal ice." "No," she agreed. "It is not." She looked at all of them, one at a time. Slowly, eyes forward. "Do not look down, and if it cracks," said Felix, "it will not crack. Unless you panic, and if I panic, then it will crack." Felix swallowed. Imogen put a hand on his shoulder. Adeline turned to the bridge. "I go first." She did not wait for permission. She did not look back. She stepped onto the ice. The bridge knew her now. She had crossed it 47 times in 3 years. 47 small acts of faith. She did not look down. She did not think about the drop. She did not think about anything. She walked. The ice flexed under her boots, gently. The way a horse tests an unfamiliar rider. "I trust you," she told it. The bridge held. She reached the other side, turned, looked back across the chasm. The faces of her companions were small and pale against the dark trees. "Imogen," she called. "You next." Imogen Hollow crossed with the same quiet composure she brought to everything. She did not speak. She did not falter. She reached Adeline's side and exhaled slowly. "That was not as bad as I expected," she said. "It is never as bad as you expect," said Adeline. "Until the one time it is." Imogen smiled, the first real smile Adeline had seen from her. Felix went next, pale, mumbling something that might have been a prayer, or might have been his wife's name, then Niam. Silent, efficient, then Brother Alaric. Slow, steady, his lips moving in actual prayer this time. Then Hadrian, then Caspian. He was the heaviest of them by a significant margin. The bridge was not wide. Adeline found she was holding her breath as he stepped on. He moved without hesitation, without arrogance. He treated the bridge with the same matter-of-fact respect she had taught them. He did not look down. He was halfway across when the ice cracked. It was not a catastrophic break. It was a sharp snap that echoed through the ravine like a shot. The section beneath his left boot gave way by 2 inches. His body tilted. His weight shifted. For one terrible second, he was about to fall. Adeline was moving before she had decided to move. She lunged forward, grabbed the root system she always used for the final step, extended her other hand across the last gap. Caspian grabbed my arm. His amber eyes met hers. He did not hesitate. He grabbed her. His grip was iron. Iron that knew exactly how much force to use. Careful, deliberate. He could have crushed her wrist. He held it like something precious. She pulled. He came forward in one motion, took the final step. Onto solid ground. Onto her ground, their faces were inches apart, close enough that she could see the small flare of his nostrils, the pulse at the side of his throat, the gold at the center of his eyes glowing almost too bright to look at. Their hands were still locked. He did not let go. She did not pull away for 3 full seconds, 3 seconds that felt longer than 3 years. Then he said, very quietly, 47. She blinked. What? 47 crossings. For you, this was your 48th. He let go of her hand, slowly, like releasing something he did not want to release. Thank you, he said, and then he stepped back. And the moment closed like water over a stone. Adeline turned. She started walking. She did not trust her face. Behind her, she heard Imogen say, very softly, well? She did not turn around. She walked. She walked for 10 minutes before she stopped trembling. She walked another 20 before she would let herself remember the heat of his hand. The forest watched her. Patiently. She could swear, if she had been a praying woman, that the trees were smiling. That night they made camp in a hollow ringed by ancient oaks. The roots formed a natural shelter. Cupped hands holding them, Brother Alaric kindled the fire with herbs Adeline had shown him. Felix passed around dried meat. Imogen rolled out blankets in a tight, efficient circle. The soldiers ate quietly. The kind of quiet that comes from people who have just done something difficult and are still feeling it. Adeline sat with her back against the largest oak. The fire warmed her hands. Across the flames, Imogen pulled out a worn piece of cloth, folded it carefully, tucked it under her cheek as she leaned back. What is that? Adeline asked, quietly. Not really expecting an answer, Imogen looked at her, surprised, as if she had not expected to be asked. My husband's shirt, she said. A pause. He died 3 years ago. The last battle of the Unification Wars. The one that ended it. The one that gave the king his throne. She did not say it bitterly. Just plainly, I still sleep with his shirt under my face. After 3 years, I have washed it so many times. The smell is mostly gone now. I keep washing it anyway. Adeline looked across the fire. Caspian was watching them. Not pretending not to. Just watching. She thought of Felix, who had a wife 6 months pregnant. She thought of all the men who had died for the throne Caspian wore. She thought of how long Caspian had been carrying the weight of that. My husband, Adeline said, surprising herself, he did not die in a battle. He died in a border dispute over money he had stolen. He died 14 months after he watched me branded for crimes he committed. Imogen looked at her. I am sorry. Do not be sorry, Adeline said. I loved him once, truly. I was 19 when I bonded to him. I thought he was good. That is the worst part, not that he turned out to be cruel. That I had loved him before I knew. She looked at the fire when he sat in that hall and said nothing. I lost more than my title. I lost my ability to trust my own heart. Felix had gone very quiet across the fire. Brother Alaric had bowed his head. Niam, who never spoke. My mother was branded too. Everyone turned. The young tracker looked at the fire, her face unreadable. She did not survive the first winter. I was 6. I have her brand in a box. I take it out sometimes to remember why I track for the king. A long silence. Adeline felt something move in her chest. She had carried her story alone for 3 years. She had thought no one else would understand it. She had thought the brand was the loneliest thing a woman could wear. She had been wrong. She was not alone in this. She had not been alone for a long time. She looked up. Caspian was looking at her. His face had changed. The amber of his eyes had gone soft. The line of his jaw had loosened. He looked for one moment like a man and not a king. He looked for one moment very young. Then he looked into the fire, and he said very quietly, "My grandmother." Everyone stilled. My grandmother was branded too. Political removal. She was the wife of an alpha who fell out of favor with the council. They stripped her, burned her, sent her out. He swallowed. She lived 30 years with the brand. She raised my father in a small village on the western coast. She baked bread. She told me stories. She never spoke of it. Not once. Not in all my childhood. A pause. I found out by accident. When I was 17, I found her old papers, the records, the council seal. His hands tightened on his cup. She had been dead for 2 years already. I was the king-to-be of the territories. I could have reversed it. I did not know in time. He looked up. He looked at Adeline. I made a promise to her grave that month. That exile used as a political weapon would end under my rule. I have spent 15 years working toward that. I have failed in many ways. I failed you. Before I knew you existed, his voice was steady. But Adeline could see the place where it cost him to keep it steady. She did not know what to say. She said the only thing she could think of. Caspian, he looked at her. "You did not fail me," she said. "You came." He held her gaze across the fire. "Yes," he said. "I came," and his eyes said more than that. She looked away first. Because she had to. Because she was not ready. Later, when the others had rolled into their blankets. When the fire was low, Brother Alaric came and sat beside her. He moved slowly, the way old men move at the end of long days. He settled himself with a small, grateful sigh. Adeline waited. He pulled something from inside his robe, a letter old, yellowed at the edges, folded into a small square, sealed with wax that had cracked and been carefully resealed many times. "I have carried this for 18 years, he said. "I have waited to give it to you." Adeline did not move. "Your mother gave it to me," he said, 3 days before she died. I was a younger priest then, just beginning my work. She came to my chapel one night with you asleep in her arms. You were 5 years old. He pressed the letter into Adeline's hand. She said, "When my daughter is old enough to understand, give her this." I did not know what old enough meant. I have waited a long time. Adeline looked at the letter. Her hand was shaking. "You knew her. I knew her. Yes. Briefly, she was a good woman, a brave one. She knew something was coming for her. She did not have time to warn anyone but God." Adeline's throat closed. "Why now?" "Because tonight," he said gently. "I looked across this fire, and I saw what I have been waiting 18 years to see. I saw you old enough." He patted her hand. "Stood slowly. Read it when you are alone, child. I will be sleeping by the fire if you need me." He walked away. Adeline sat with the letter in her hand for a very long time. She rose, walked to the edge of the camp, sat down with her back against an oak. She broke the seal. She unfolded the letter. The handwriting was small and slanted and very, very dear. "Adeline, my heart, if you are reading this, I am no longer with you. I am sorry. I am sorry I could not stay longer. I am sorry I could not see what you would become. There are people in the council who do not want me to be alive. I do not know yet what they will do, but I know they will do something. And I know I may not have time to teach you what I want to teach you, so I am writing it now. While I still can, 3 things, my little wolf. Remember 3 things. 1. Do not let the cruelty of others make you cruel. The world will give you so many reasons. Do not take them. 2. Kindness is stronger than fists. People will tell you it is not. They will be wrong. Be kind anyway. Be kind especially when it costs you. That is when it counts. 3. I love you. I have loved you from the moment I first held you. I will love you in whatever comes next. Forever. Be brave, my little wolf. You will be brave. I know it. I have always known it. Your mother." Adeline finished reading. She read it again. She read it a 3rd time, and then, sitting against the cold trunk of an ancient oak in the deepest part of the Brierwood forest. Adeline Thornberry, who had not cried in over a year, began to cry quietly, with her face turned toward the bark of the tree so no one would see. Tears for the woman she had only one memory of. Tears for the 5-year-old who had not understood what death meant. Tears for the 18 years of silence. Tears for the truth that had been waiting in a priest's pocket for her to be old enough. She cried until there was nothing left. Then she wiped her face. She folded the letter. She tucked it inside her shirt. Against her heart, she looked up at the canopy. The stars were very small and very far through the branches. But they were there, she thought, to her mother, the way she thought to the forest. I will be brave. I am being brave. I will not let them make me cruel. The wind in the branches was the only answer. It was answer enough. The third day was bad. The third day was the day they were attacked. It came at the gold hour, just before midday, when the light was warmest and the canopy was thickest and the soldiers had relaxed by half a degree. That was when Niamh stopped walking. She held up one hand. A sharp gesture, everyone froze. For 1 second there was nothing. For 1 second the forest was holding its breath. Then they came 6 wolves, black armor, yellow eyes, moving in a tight, efficient triangle that had been drilled into them for months. Oren's wolves, not just any soldiers, his best. The 4 hand-picked enforcers he traveled with, plus 2 more they had not expected. They hit the column from the right flank, hard. Fast, the clearing exploded into noise and motion. Adeline did not have time to think. She drew her hunting knife, pressed her back against an oak. Hadrian shifted in one fluid motion. Massive gray wolf with a battle-scared muzzle. He met the lead enforcer mid-air, their bodies tangled. Bone cracked. Niamh was a blur of movement, knives in both hands. Her face perfectly calm. Imogen fought beside her, not with knives, with a short sword, beautiful precise strokes. Her gray's eyes flat with focus. Caspian shifted. Adeline had heard the stories. She had not believed them. She has assumed they were exaggerations. They were not exaggerations. His wolf form rose like a wave. Black fur, so dark it absorbed the light around it. Shoulders at the height of a man's chest. Eyes the color of liquid gold. He was a thing out of the oldest pack legends. A direwolf, ancient bloodline, pure royal line. 2 of the enforcers broke and ran the moment they saw him. The remaining ones fought because they had no choice. It was over in under 3 minutes. It felt like an hour. Then the clearing was full of bodies, and the silence after a fight. Which is the loudest silence in the world? Adeline lowered her knife. Her hand was steady. She turned to look at the others. Imogen was bleeding from a cut on her arm. Nothing serious. Niamh was unhurt. Brother Alaric was kneeling beside someone on the ground, beside Felix. She ran. She did not remember running. She just remembered being on her knees in the wet leaves beside him. Felix Rourke, 23 years old, brown curls dark with blood, a clean wound under his ribs, too clean, too deep. Brother Alaric was pressing a cloth to it. The priest looked at her. His eyes said what she already knew. Felix opened his eyes. He saw her. He smiled. Adeline. His voice was a thread. It is all right, she said. Felix. It is going to be all right. No, it is not, he coughed. A small, terrible sound. My pack. In my pack. There is a ring. She found his pack. Found a small leather pouch inside it. Pulled out a silver ring. Plain. Worn. Loved for Wynne, he whispered. My wife. Wynne Rourke. Village of Stillwater. Tell her. I will tell her. Tell her I thought of her every night. Tell her. His eyes were going far away. If it is a boy. Felix the younger. After me. If it is a girl. He swallowed. My mother. Her name. Mira. Adeline's breath caught. Her mother's name. A coincidence. It had to be. Mira was not an uncommon name, but it landed in her chest like a stone. Mira, she said. Yes. I will tell her. Tell her I am sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, I do. He gripped her hand. With the last strength he had, I should have been there. For the baby. Felix, hold my hand. I am holding it. Do not. Let go. I will not let go. She held his hand. He took 2 more breaths. He stopped. Brother Alaric closed his eyes. Began the old prayer, in a soft, steady voice that did not waver. Adeline did not let go of Felix's hand for the long time after. When she did, she pressed the ring to her own heart. Then she put it in her pocket. She would not lose it. She would not forget. She would walk to Stillwater Village herself if she had to. She would put it in Win Rourke's hand. She would. She felt Caspian come to stand beside her. She did not look up. After a long moment, his hand touched her shoulder. Briefly. Just once. The lightest possible weight. Then he knelt beside her, in the wet leaves. Beside Felix, his armored knee in the dirt. The king of the territories, kneeling. He said nothing. He just knelt there with her, until Brother Alaric finished the prayer. Then he rose, helped her up, did not let go of her hand until she was steady on her feet. This is why I need you, he said, quietly, so only she could hear. She looked at him. Not for your forest knowledge, not for your guidance, for the way you held his hand, for the way you did not look away. His amber eyes were wet. I have lost so many men. I have learned to keep my face. I have learned to walk back into camp and eat my dinner and write the letter to the family. I have learned to do it without breaking. A pause. I do not want to learn that anymore. I want to be a king who feels it. I want to be a king who kneels in the dirt with the woman who held the dying soldier's hand. I want to be that kind of king. He looked at her. You are showing me how. Adeline could not speak. She just held his hand. He held hers back. For one long, quiet moment in the deep Brierwood, they held hands. It was not romantic. It was not even tender. It was witnessing. 2 people, witnessing each other. Adeline thought she heard, very faintly, the sound of her mother humming. She did not know if it was real. She did not need it to be real. That night, they buried Felix at the edge of a small clearing under a young pine. Brother Alaric carved his name into the bark with a small knife. Felix Rourke, 23. Scout. Husband. Father-to-be. The next morning, they walked. Niamh found a track at the second water crossing. She knelt, studied it, frowned, followed it for 100 yards, frowned harder, came back. She spoke to Caspian privately. Then both of them came to Adeline. Oren is not with his army anymore, Niamh said. He split off. 3 days ago. He has 4 wolves with him. They are moving fast. Moving where? Said Adeline. Niamh's face was set, south, around the forest, toward the village. The one with the children, Adeline's blood went cold. Posy. He is going to take hostages, Caspian said. To force us to stop. Adeline was already moving. We have to go back, Adeline. We have to go back. He cannot have her. Caspian caught her by the shoulders. Not hard, but firm. Steadying her, Adeline. Listen to me. She looked at him. If you go back, we do not reach the stone. If we do not reach the stone, he becomes king. And no village is safe. Not Stillwater, not Posy's village. Not any village. For 100 years, her chest was tight. You are asking me to choose. I am not asking. You have to choose. And whatever you choose, I will respect. She closed her eyes. She saw Posy's face. She saw every child in every village from here to the coast. She saw her mother's letter. Be kind, especially when it costs you. That is when it counts. She opened her eyes. She looked at Hadrian. Hadrian, my lady, take 3 soldiers. Go back. Now, get to that village. Save Posy and every child in it. Do whatever you have to do. Hadrian looked at Caspian. Caspian nodded once. Sharp, go. Take Nam. Move fast. Get the children out. Yes, sire. Nam was already moving. Hadrian gathered 3 soldiers. Within 5 minutes they were gone. Adeline watched them go. She felt the loss like a missing limb. They will save her, Caspian said quietly beside her. You do not know that. No, he agreed. But I know Hadrian, and I know Niamh. If anyone can, they will. She turned to him. What is left? You, me, Imogen, Brother Alaric. 4 of us to face Oren at the stones. Yes, he will have his enforcers with him. Maybe more. Yes, Caspian. Yes, I am afraid. He looked at her for a long moment. So am I. That is good. Only fools are not afraid. We are not fools. He held out his hand. She took it. This time she did not let go for a long time. They walked for the rest of that day in silence. The forest had changed. The trees were older here. Their trunks were so wide that 4 people holding hands could not have circled one. The bark was dark silver with age. Mushrooms the size of dinner plates glowed faintly along their roots, even in daylight. The light was different, softer, almost blue. The air carried a sweetness Adeline had never been able to name. Imogen walked behind her. Brother Alaric behind Imogen. Caspian beside Adeline. They were entering the Elder Grove, the oldest part of the forest. The part Adeline had been to only twice in 3 years. The part where you felt, with every step, that you were trespassing somewhere not built for ordinary visitors. She felt the forest watching her. She thought, as clearly as she could, I am bringing them to do the right thing. The path stayed clear. By late afternoon, they came to the edge of a small open clearing. In the center of the clearing was the stone, the hallowed stone pale. Almost white, the height of a seated person. Worn smooth by centuries and something else. It sat at the center of a perfect ring of glowing mushrooms. Adeline felt the air change. She felt the presence of the place, like standing near something that was paying attention, not menacing, just aware. They had reached it. They had reached it ahead of Oren then. From the far side of the clearing, a voice, smooth, reasonable, familiar. Hello, Adeline. She turned. He was already there. Oren Vance stood at the opposite edge of the clearing, alone, in a heavy dark cloak, hands empty, smiling pleasantly. I did wonder, he said, if you would come. He held up something in his right hand, a small leather-bound book, old, cracked, travel-worn. I brought you a gift, he said. I have been waiting 18 years to give it to you. He took one step toward her. It is your mother's journal. The world tilted. Open it, he said softly. Read the last page. Then we will talk about your future. The wind in the Elder Grove went still. Adeline could not move. She could not breathe. She could only stare at the man who had taken everything from her, holding out, in his careful pale hand, the one thing she had never known existed. The last words her mother had ever written. The clearing was very still. Oren held the journal out across the empty air between them. His smile was small and patient. The smile of a man who had practiced this moment in his head 1,000 times. Come on, Adeline, he said softly. Take it. It is yours. Adeline did not move. Beside her, she felt Caspian go very still. The kind of stillness that came before motion. She put a hand on his arm. Wait. He waited. Where are your enforcers, Oren? Adeline said. At the edge of the trees, where I told them to stay. I came alone to talk to you. I owed you that much. You owe me nothing. You took it all already, Adeline. Speak from where you are. He stopped, tilted his head, studied her. You have changed, he said. I always knew you were intelligent. I did not know you would be hard. I am not hard, she said. I am whole. She held out her hand. Give me the book. He did not throw it. He set it on the grass. Stepped back, hands open. Adeline crossed to it slowly. She knelt. She picked it up. The leather was soft from being held. The pages smelled of old paper and dried lavender. The handwriting on the first page made her breath catch. The same handwriting as the letter. Her mother's hand. She opened to the last page, the dated entry from 21 years ago. 1 week before her mother had died, she read it. She read it twice. She closed the book. She looked up. You did not kill my mother, she said. Oren smiled. Almost gently. No, I did not. I was 16 years old. I was the youngest aide on the council staff. I was carrying papers. But you knew. I knew. You knew which 3 council members poisoned her. I knew, and 18 years later, when you had risen to beta. You used that knowledge to climb. He did not deny it. I did. Their grandchildren were on the council by then. I let them know what I knew. They opened doors for me. Whole hallways of them. I rose. Faster than anyone expected. You built your career. she said quietly. On the corpse of my mother. Yes, and when I came of age. When I married Bennett. When I was suddenly a Luna with access to records and ears in every chamber. You realized I might one day read what was in this journal. Yes, so you began the plan. The forged documents, the slow, careful unmaking of me, so that I would never read it, so that I would be exiled, discredited, made a ghost. Yes, he spread his hands. It was not personal, Adeline. It was self-preservation. You have to understand. I do understand. Good. I understand you completely. That is what is so terrible, she rose. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. You are not a monster, Oren. That is the worst part. A monster I could pity. You are a small, frightened man who decided, over and over, to protect himself by destroying others. There is no greatness in you. There is just a long string of choices. To take the easier path. The crueler path, until there is nothing left of you but the path. The smile left his face. You do not get to lecture me. I am not lecturing you. I am telling you what you already know. You will die knowing it, whether it is in 10 years or in 50. You will die knowing that no one ever truly loved you, because you never gave them anything to love. Stop talking. And the worst part for you is that I do not hate you. I pity you, and you can feel it. His hand moved. She knew before she saw it. She knew because she had spent a year living in close quarters with this man. She had watched him reach for cups and quilt and door handles 1,000 times. The knife came out of his sleeve. She was already moving, but Caspian was faster. He crossed the clearing in 3 strides, half-shifted, faster than a man, stronger than a wolf. He hit Oren like a wave hitting a rock. They went down together, hard, rolling through the ring of glowing mushrooms, crushing some, sending up a faint silver dust. Oren was good. That was the thing nobody had quite prepared for. He had been trained for years by the finest weapons masters of the Eastern Alphas. He moved like a man who had decided long ago that he would not lose. He was on his feet again in seconds, the knife now in his left hand. A second knife produced from somewhere on his belt. He moved in. Caspian shifted fully. The black wolf rose, eyes burning gold. Lips pulled back from teeth that looked like white knives. The two of them circled. Adeline pulled Imogen and Brother Alaric behind her, backed them against the edge of the clearing. Stay there, she said. Both of you. Do not interfere, Adeline. Stay, she turned. She watched. Oren was good, but Caspian was the Alpha King still. The knives were a problem. Oren slashed. Caspian danced back, slashed again. Caspian feinted left and came in from the right. Massive jaws closing on Oren's shoulder. Oren screamed, drove the second knife up into Caspian's side. A bright, clean stab. Right between the ribs, the black wolf staggered. Adeline's heart stopped. Caspian went down, rolled. Came up half-shifted again, man-shaped with wolf features, blood pouring down his side. His face contorted with the pain of holding the partial form. Oren pressed his advantage, came in fast. Caspian was slowing. He was going to lose. He was going to die, right here. In the clearing she had walked through 3 times in 3 years. He was going to die because he had come to find her. A sword lay near her feet. Hadrian had left a spare, strapped to the side of his pack. The pack was at her feet, because she had unshouldered it during the conversation with Oren. She drew the sword to her. It was heavy, heavier than she had expected. She moved. She came up behind Oren, quietly. The way a hunter moves on a deer. He did not see her. He was raising his knife for the killing blow. She had 3 seconds. She had 3 seconds to decide. She could drive the sword through his back. Right now. End this. Save Caspian. Save the kingdom. The blade was already lifted. Her hands were already moving. And then, in her head, very clearly, her mother's voice, do not let the cruelty of others make you cruel. The world will give you so many reasons. Do not take them. She froze for 1 terrible second. She stood with the sword raised behind a man who deserved to die, and she heard her dead mother say, do not become him. Her arms shook. Killing him would not return what he had taken. Killing him would not bring her mother back, would not heal her years of cold and silence, would not make Felix's child have a father. It would only make her the thing he was. She made a sound, half cry, half fury. She did not drive the sword down. She hurled it sideways. The blade flew through the air and clattered to the ground 20 feet away. And then she screamed, not in despair. In command, Caspian. Get up! The black wolf, half collapsed in the grass, lifted his head. He looked at her. His gold eyes met hers across the clearing. She saw the moment understanding moved through him. He saw what she had just refused to do. He understood what it had cost her, and he understood she needed him to live. The black wolf rolled, came up snarling, threw himself at Oren from below, caught him at the waist, drove him to the ground. This time, he did not let go. It was over very quickly after that. Caspian had Oren pinned, massive jaws around his throat, not biting. Holding, Oren lay frozen beneath him. Caspian's golden eyes burned. The killing was right there. One small motion. Done. He did not bite. He shifted back, slowly, painfully. Blood still flowing from his side. He stood over Oren in human form. His side a mess of red. Adeline ran to him. You are bleeding, I know, Brother Alaric. I am here. The old priest was already moving. Already pulling cloth from his pack. Already pressing it to Caspian's side. But Caspian did not look down at his wound. He looked at Oren on the ground. Oren Vance, he said. Quiet. Final. You will come back to Duskaro Keep. You will stand trial before the full council. You will answer for everything. The forged documents, the illegal exile, the murder of Aluna, the years of climbing on her grave. A pause. If I killed you here, now you would be a martyr. Your followers would tell stories. Within a generation, the truth would be lost again. I will not give you that. He looked down at the broken man at his feet. You will be small in public. You will be sentenced in front of every alpha in the territories. You will be made nothing. The way you tried to make her nothing, Oren made a sound, not words. Just a sound. Caspian turned away from him. He turned to Adeline. She caught him as his legs gave way. She lowered him to the grass. Brother Alaric was already working, hands moving with the calm competence of 50 years of practice. He will live, the priest said, after a long moment. But we need to stop the bleeding, and we need to be still. Adeline. She bent over him. I am here. I am here at the stone, Caspian. Be quiet. No. Listen. The stone. He gripped her hand with the hand that was not pressed to his wound. We have to go. Now. Or this was for nothing. She looked toward the hallowed stone. Pale. Silent. Waiting. She looked at Imogen, who was watching with her gray eyes wet. Help me get him up, Adeline said. They walked the last 20 feet together. Caspian leaning on her, his arm across her shoulders, her arm around his waist, her hand pressing the cloth to his side. Brother Alaric on his other side. Imogen walking behind, carrying his sword. They stopped 3 feet from the stone. He turned to her. His amber eyes were tired, but they were clear, Adeline. Yes, I cannot do this alone, Caspian. I would have once. Before, I would have insisted on doing it alone, because that is what kings do. They stand alone. He shook his head slowly. I am tired of standing alone. I do not want to do it alone anymore. He took her free hand, pressed it palm to palm against his. Come with me. I am not a king. No. You are something better. You are a woman who put down a sword when she had every right to use it. You are a woman who pitied a man who destroyed her instead of destroying him back. You are the kind of person the old stories say the moon listens to. His grip on her hand was warm. Please. She looked at the stone. She looked at him. She thought of her mother in a garden full of late summer roses. She thought of Posey with her missing front tooth. She thought of Felix, who would never see his child. She thought of Imogen sleeping with her husband's shirt under her face for 3 years. She thought of Brother Alaric, carrying a letter for 18 years. She thought of all the women branded in this territory and the territories to come. All the women whose lives had been decided by men in stone halls who never asked them what they wanted. She thought, if I do this, I am doing it for them. She nodded. Together they stepped forward. Together they placed their joined hands on the stone. The light came up out of the stone like sunrise, silver, soft, spreading from their joined hands outward through the stone's entire body. The glow filled the clearing. The glowing mushrooms blazed brighter. The air filled with a quiet humming that was not quite sound. The forest around them came alive. The wind moved in the high canopy. The light beneath the trees shifted to a deeper blue. From somewhere, very faintly, came a sound that might have been singing, or might have been wind, or might have been the forest itself. Saying yes, Adeline closed her eyes. She felt it, the confirmation. Not in her head, in her body, in her chest. A warmth opening where a coldness had lived for 3 winters. A door swinging open in a room she had thought was sealed forever. She felt her wolf, awake, whole, welcomed. She felt her mother. She felt, somehow, every woman who had ever stood here in the long ages of this place, every Luna who had ever been confirmed beside a king, every act of choosing kindness over cruelty, every refusal to become the thing that had hurt you. She felt all of them, saying, yes, this one. Yes. She opened her eyes. Caspian was looking at her. His amber eyes were full of tears. Adeline, I know. It chose us. It chose us. The journey back took 12 days. They walked slowly. For Caspian, Brother Alaric stitched his wound and changed the dressings every morning. By the 3rd day, Caspian was walking unaided. By the 7th, he was walking without favoring his side. The man healed the way old stories said Alpha Kings healed. Fast, cleanly. With the help of something older than medicine, Adeline walked beside him every step. They did not speak about the stone. They did not need to. What had happened in the clearing was not something words could improve. They spoke about other things, about his childhood on the western coast in his grandmother's small house with the herb garden. About Adeline's first winter alone in the cottage. About the one memory she had of her mother, the garden, the roses, the daisy crown. He listened. He listened the way men of his rank did not usually listen. She found herself telling him things she had never told anyone. About the way she had thought about giving up that first January. About the day in the 2nd year when she had heard a wolf howl far off in the forest and answered it without thinking. About finding old friend in the snare. He cried, once, when she told him about old friend. A few quiet tears that he did not try to hide. She loved him for that. She had not used the word yet, not even in her head. But it was there, waiting, patient, like a bird on a branch. She would let it land in its own time. They reached Duscaro Keep on the 18th day of the moon cycle. Hadrian was already there. He had reached the village in time. He had saved every child, including Posy. Adeline went to see her first thing. Posy and her mother were staying in the keep as the king's guests. The little girl flew across the courtyard, hit Adeline at full speed, wrapped her arms around her waist. Mama said you brought a king. I did. Is he nice? Adeline thought about it. Yes, she said. He is. Does he say sorry when he does something wrong? She looked at Posy. She thought about the first words Caspian had said to her in the doorway of her cottage. Yes, she said. He does. Then he is nice. Posy held up something carved out of wood. A small, uneven rabbit. I made this for you, Posy said. It is not very good. The ears are wrong. Adeline took the rabbit. She turned it over in her hand. Imperfect ears. Slightly off proportions, the work of a child learning, alone, to make a thing with her own hands. It is perfect, she said. She would keep that rabbit for the rest of her life. She did not know that yet, but she would. The trial took 2 days. The Alpha Council gathered. 4 of the 5 original members. The 5th, an old man named Hollis, who had supported Oren in his early bid, had taken sick suddenly and could not attend. No one was fooled. No one needed to be. Oren Vance stood in the dock, pale, composed. He did not deny the charges. The journal was entered into evidence. So were Bennett Thornbury's confession papers. So was the forged seals recovered from Oren's chambers. So were the testimonies of the surviving enforcers. Adeline gave her testimony on the second day. She stood in the same hall where she had been branded 3 years before. She stood at the same stone where she had knelt to receive the iron. She did not kneel this time, she stood. She told them plainly about the branding, about her husband's silence, about 3 years in the cold, about finding her mother's journal in the elder grove, about the murder of Mira Thornbury 18 years ago by 3 council members long since dead. She did not cry. She did not raise her voice. She did not ask for vengeance. She stated what had happened and let the listening do the rest. The hall was silent when she finished. The council deliberated for 31 minutes. The sentence was read by the senior member. Oren Vance was stripped of his title, his packlands, his council standing, and every property he had accumulated through bribery and coercion. He was sentenced to 10 years of rehabilitative labor in the northern border posts. He would mine ore. He would mend roads. He would do useful work. He would not speak in any hall of governance again. His name would be entered into the historical records with the truth attached to it, so that future generations would know. He was led out of the hall. He did not look at Adeline. She did not look at him either. Then, a woman rose from the back of the gallery. She was old, past 70, bent with the weight of many years, her hair white as new snow, her face full of lines that had been earned. She walked down the long aisle slowly, leaning on a wooden cane carved with mountain flowers. Adeline did not know her. The old woman stopped in front of Adeline. She lowered herself to her knees. Slowly, painfully. With effort, please, Adeline said. Please stand, please. The woman shook her head. I am Cordelia Vance, she said quietly. I am Oren's mother. I have traveled 10 days to be here. The hall went absolutely still. Adeline reached down, took the woman's hands, gently. Please. Stand, Mrs. Vance. Please. Let me finish. Adeline lowered her hand. The old woman's eyes were full of tears that did not fall. They simply sat in her old eyes, brimming, patient. I do not ask you, Cordelia Vance said, to forgive my son. He is not mine to ask for anymore. He stopped being mine many years ago. When he made the choices he made, a long pause. What I ask, what I came here to ask, is your forgiveness for me. The mother who did not see, who did not look, who chose to believe my son was the boy I had raised. When he had become something else, her old hands gripped Adeline's hands. I am the one who failed. I am the one who turned my face from the signs. I am the mother, and I should have known. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Adeline could not speak for a moment. She knelt down, in the middle of the great hall of Duscaro Keep, in front of 4 alphas and their councils, and a gallery full of witnesses. The newly confirmed Luna of the Alpha King knelt in her green dress in front of a broken old woman. She put her arms around her. She held her. She said, very quietly, into the white hair at the side of the woman's head, "What is your fault? For loving your son. You loved a child. He is not your child anymore. He is a man who made his own choices. You did not make them for him." The old woman shook in her arms, Mrs. Vance. "Look at me." The woman looked. "I forgive you. Not because you need it, but because you are carrying it, and I will not let you carry it any longer." Cordelia Vance wept. She wept the way old women weep. Quietly. Deeply. With the patience of someone who has been crying for many years already and knows how it goes. Adeline held her until she was done. Then she helped her up, walked her to a chair, sat her down, stayed beside her until she had stopped trembling. In the gallery, women were weeping. In the gallery, men were looking at the floor. Adeline did not see Caspian's face from where she sat. But later, when she finally looked, he was looking at her like she had hung the moon. He was looking at her like he could not believe he was allowed to look. She would remember that look for the rest of her life. The reversal ceremony took place at the next full moon. The great hall of Duscaro Keep had been restored to its older purpose for the night. The high, stained-glass dome above the dais had been opened to the sky. The hall filled with moonlight that fell in a silver column directly onto the stone where Adeline stood. She wore a dress the color of deep forest shadow. She wore her mother's silver moon necklace at her throat. She wore no shoes. Because the old ceremony required bare feet on the sacred floor, she held her right wrist out. 3 council members read the old words. The words that had not been spoken in this hall in 40 years. The silver brand at her wrist began to glow. It glowed warmer, brighter. Then Caspian stepped forward. He held the king's seal in his hand. He pressed it to the parchment of the reversal decree. The brand on Adeline's wrist went cold. It faded, like a coal dropped into water. The silver dimmed. The shape softened. It vanished. Where the ring had been, there was only smooth skin, slightly paler than the rest. A ghost of what had been there. Visible if you knew. Invisible if you did not. Adeline looked down at her wrist. She had carried that brand for 1,095 days. It was gone. She did not cry. She had thought she would cry. But what came was something stranger and quieter than tears. A feeling like a door closing softly. Like a room being aired out after a long winter. Like the end of a held breath. She raised her eyes to the open sky. The moon was there. Full. White. Watching. She pressed her unmarked wrist to her chest. She breathed. Imogen, in the front row, was sobbing quietly. Brother Alaric had his head bowed. Caspian, just behind her, said nothing. He did not need to. He had given her what was hers. He had not made it a transaction. He had not made it a debt. He had just returned it. It was the most romantic thing any man had ever done for her. She did not let her face say so. But her wolf knew. Her wolf had known for a while now. She went back to the cottage one more time, alone, in the second week of spring. She had needed to. She had told Caspian. He had not asked why. He had only said, "Take all the time you need. I will be here when you come back." She walked the long path through Brierwood in the gentle warming light. Crocuses pushing up through the cold ground. Birdsong returning to the upper branches. She came to the cottage. It was exactly as she had left it. Smaller than she remembered. Sturdier than she had thought. She walked through the door. She touched the workbench. She touched the empty blanket by the fireplace. She went out into the clearing. She walked to the great oak. She knelt beside the small flat stone marked friend. She set down a small bunch of new violets. She said very quietly, "I came back, old friend. I told you I would. I am all right. I am better than all right. I wanted you to know." The wind moved softly in the new leaves above her head. She thought she heard, very faintly, the sound of a tail thumping a wood floor. She knew it was not real. She did not need it to be real. She walked the long way back to the village. To Stillwater, to Win Rourke. Win had given birth 2 weeks before, a baby girl. She had named her Mira, after Felix's mother, and she had told Adeline in the letter that had reached her at the keep, after Adeline's mother, too. Because Felix had spoken of you. He had said you were the bravest woman he had ever met, and he wanted my daughter to be named for a woman like that. Adeline arrived at Win's small house in the late afternoon. Win opened the door with a baby on her hip. The baby had Felix's brown curls. Adeline took out the ring. The plain silver ring she had carried in her pocket for 4 months. She put it in Win's hand. She said all the things she had promised to say. Then she took the baby, held her, pressed her face very gently to the small, warm crown of her head. She whispered, "Hello, little Mira. I knew your father. He loved you so much." The baby made a small, contented sound. Adeline gave her back. She walked back to the King's Road weeping. But the kind of weeping that does not hurt. The kind that washes things clean. When she came back to Stormcrown Keep, Caspian was waiting in the courtyard. He had not gone inside. He stood there, plain clothes, no crown, holding 2 cups of tea. She walked up to him. She took one of the cups. She did not say anything. He did not either. They stood in the late spring courtyard, drinking tea, watching the light change. After a long while, he said, very quietly. I have a question for you. All right, I am not asking you to be a Luna of the court. I am not asking you to take a title. All right, I am asking you to be my wife. There is a difference. A title is a thing the world gives you. A wife is a promise you make to one person. I want the promise. She looked at him. She looked at him for a long time. She said, yes, that was all. That was everything. His face went soft in a way she had never seen. He set down his cup. He took her free hand. He pressed his forehead to hers. He did not weep, but his breath shook. She held the back of his neck. Lightly, carefully. The way she had once held a wounded creature. And in the open courtyard, in the spring light, the alpha king of the territories and the Luna who had walked out of the Brierwood stood with their foreheads pressed together, breathing in unison. For a very long, quiet moment. Until at last, very softly, Caspian said, thank you, and Adeline, equally softly said, for what? For coming back, for coming at all. She closed her eyes. She kissed him for the first time, lightly, on the corner of his mouth. The way a thing is sealed, it was not a wild kiss. It was not a story kiss. It was a homecoming. They were bonded in late spring, in the small walled garden behind Adeline's cottage. She had chosen the place. Caspian had agreed without question. The garden was just big enough. The bonding party was just small enough. Posy was the small bride's maid. She wore a daisy crown that Adeline had woven for her. She held a basket of flower petals. She scattered them with the serious concentration of an 8-year-old performing a sacred duty. Imogen Hollow was the older bride's maid. She wore the same gray as her late husband's old shirt. She held herself very straight the whole ceremony. But her eyes were soft. Brother Alaric officiated. Hadrian Brier stood for Caspian's family. Wynne Rourke came with little Mira on her hip. The baby slept through the entire ceremony with her thumb in her mouth. Adeline would be her godmother. It had already been agreed. Cordelia Vance was there too. Adeline had invited her personally. The old woman sat in the back row in a borrowed black dress. She wept quietly through the whole thing. Adeline had walked back to her afterward and held her hand and said, "You will be welcome at this keep for as long as you live." Cordelia had not been able to answer. She had only nodded, and nodded, and nodded. Adeline wore a simple cream dress, her hair down, the moon necklace at her throat, her unmarked wrist on display. She walked into the garden with no one to give her away, because she had given herself away the day she had walked out of the Brierwood the first time. The day she had decided she would survive, she walked herself to the front. She stood opposite Caspian. He was in plain dark clothes. No crown, no armor, the scar on his jaw catching the late afternoon light. His amber eyes wet. She thought in that moment that she had never seen a more beautiful thing. Brother Alaric raised his hands. "Do you come to this bond freely?" he said. "I do," said Adeline. It was the easiest sentence she had ever spoken. "I do," said Caspian, and in his voice was every year of his 10 years on the throne, every soldier he had buried, every night he had eaten dinner alone, every prayer at his grandmother's grave that this day would come. Brother Alaric wound the silver cord around their joined wrists. Adeline's unmarked one, Caspian's battle-scared one. The two wrists bound together. Then, by the moon's grace, he said softly, "You are one." The garden erupted in applause. Posy ran forward and hugged Adeline's legs. Adeline scooped her up. Adeline kissed the top of her head. Adeline laughed. Imogen, in the front row, was crying openly now. Wynne was rocking her baby gently. Old Cordelia in the back was smiling too. For the first time Adeline had ever seen. And then, in the long golden light of the spring afternoon, in the walled garden of the cottage that had been her home for 3 years, Adeline shifted. For the first time in front of a crowd, for the first time since the night she had been branded, her wolf rose like a song, pale silver, the color of moonlight, the color her mother's wolf had been, the color the old story said was given only to women born under particular stars. She was smaller than Caspian's enormous black wolf, but she was not small. She was lean, fast, strong, whole. She shook out her fur. She looked at the garden. She saw all the faces of all the people who loved her now. Then she pressed her shoulder against the side of the black wolf beside her. He pressed back. They stood there. Two wolves, bound at the wrist by silver cord that was now twined in their fur, pressed shoulder to shoulder. Quiet, settled, done with any version of alone. In the courtyard outside the garden, the Night Rain honor guard tilted their heads back. They howled. The howl rolled out over the walls, over the Brierwood, across the territories, carried on the spring wind to every village, to every border, to every settlement, to every place where for 3 years her name had been spoken in past tense. She was very much alive. She was very much home. She had not been saved. She had saved herself. The man beside her had not been her salvation. He had been her witness, her partner, her promise. That was the only kind of love worth having. The kind that does not erase you. The kind that sees you. Line closed her eyes, pressed her silver fur against the warm black side of her husband. Somewhere very far away, in the deepest part of the Brierwood, where a small stone marked the resting place of an old gray wolf with a torn ear, the wind moved softly in the new leaves. And somewhere even farther, in a garden of late summer roses that no longer existed except in memory, a woman she had never properly known was humming, tying daisies into a chain, crowning a small dark-haired daughter, telling her quietly, "You will be brave again." The moon above the keep was very bright. The moon heard everything. After the long years behind her, the moon was smiling.